This week on Irish Bandit Revolution, this one is for the wrestling fans. We ask the question, what major wrestling company can compete with the WWE? We're going to talk about some of the big corporations, the big companies within the wrestling world, a little bit of the history of the Monday Night Wars, and a whole lot more. Sit back, relax, get ready for Irish Bandit Revolution because it begins now. Welcome back to another edition of Irish Bandit Revolution. I hope everybody is having a great week. I, as always, am your host, the one, the only, the second Irish Bandit. Like I said earlier in the cold opening, this one is for the wrestling fans today because we are going to be talking about, is there a company anywhere in the world that can compete on the level of WWE? Now, as you all know, I am a long-time wrestling fan. We're going on like 34 years now. I've been watching wrestling. I started out a little bitty boy, about 4 years old, watching Hulk Hogan win the WWF, at the time, WWF Championship. When I got a little older, though, probably about 10 years old after we moved here to Saskatoon, I was looking through the channels one night and I turned it past one of the American stations that was showing NWA Wrestling, National Wrestling Alliance, not NWA like the rap ensemble. The National Wrestling Alliance, and I was taken aback to see that there was other professional wrestling other than the WWF. Of course, I had the after mags, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, The Wrestler, Wrestling and Inside Wrestling, all those, and they would show the likes of Ric Flair and Sting, the Four Horsemen, everything like that. So you have to remember, because I only knew the WWF, I only knew guys like Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, Ultimate Warrior, those names of the time. I wasn't initiated into the more wrestling-based side of professional wrestling. I think Jim Cornette said it best in the 80s, when you looked at the WWF and the NWA, you had the WWF, which was sports entertainment, as opposed to NWA, which was an entertaining sport. So this all really came to a head in about 1995 when what became WCW, which was originally the NWA, was bought by Ted Turner, moved the company to Atlanta, and he started WCW, World Championship Wrestling. He bought Jim Crockett's Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling promotion and turned it into a worldwide juggernaut and gave it a slot on Monday nights opposing WWF's Monday Night Raw, which set up the Monday Night Wars. For 83 straight weeks, WCW Monday Nitro beat Monday Night Raw in the ratings because of their more realistic storylines with the New World Order. You had the big names of professional wrestling at the time. Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Bret Hart. They all went from the WWF to the WCW. Some because, their contracts were expiring anyway, and they wanted the lighter workload and the bigger payday. And if you're a wrestling fan, you know the Montreal Screwjob. I'm not going to get into that. But for 83 straight weeks, WCW beat the WWF until the WWF changed to Attitude. That is when the WWF started picking up. WCW started losing steam, and eventually things would go downhill for the WCW very quickly. They tried everything they could to recapture that magic. Even hiring ex-WWF writer Vince Russo, which was a huge mistake. Honestly, some of his ideas were just so out there and so incomprehensible. Finally, in May of 2001, WCW was sold to Vince McMahon and the WWF, and the Monday Night Wars came to an end. TNA Wrestling tried to recapture the Monday Night Wars in 2010 when they moved their flagship show Impact to Monday nights on Spike Network. That turned out to be a huge mistake on their part, as it became laughingly known as the Monday Night Bitch Slap. WWF just annihilated TNA in every way, shape, and form. But TNA has since rebranded into Impact Wrestling. So can Impact Wrestling be great again? Can they be on the level of WWE and be competition with them? Or can another company like Ring of Honor do that? Can an outside company like New Japan Pro Wrestling or an upstart company like Lucha Underground do the same thing? Can they compete with the WWE? Let's look at all these companies and see if they are on the level of the WWE and if they can compete with them, so we can have another something like the Monday Night Wars. Impact Wrestling began in 2002 under the name NWA TNA, Total Nonstop Action. It was founded by former WWF Intercontinental Champion and former WCW World Heavyweight Champion Jeff Jarrett and his father Jerry, who had initial success in the USWA years beforehand. They set up TNA as an alternative to the WWF, offering weekly pay-per-views at a modest price of $9.99 every week, until that began to be a little too much and production costs began to become a little too high. From there, they moved Impact to Fox Sports, which is interesting now because Fox has acquired SmackDown Live and will be airing SmackDown Live every Friday come 2019. But Impact Wrestling would air in Fox Sports for, I think, about a year it was, maybe less, maybe more. Eventually, losing the contract, they would migrate to Spike TV, where they would have a much more successful run with Spike TV. From there, after the Spike TV deal ended, they kind of batted around to a whole bunch of other networks. Right now, they are currently airing on Pop Network as Impact Wrestling. They have undergone a few name changes since then. They ditched the TNA moniker and used Jeff Jarrett's Global Force Wrestling, I should say, as a name for a little while until Jeff Jarrett was ousted from the company last year. And now they're just going by Impact Wrestling. They were bought by Canadian company Anthem Entertainment and are now based out of Toronto with former WWF star Don Callis, who was Jackal in the WWE and who worked as Cyrus in ECW, Canadian boy. He's one of the executive vice presidents, along with Scott D'Amore, who has been a longtime TNA talent. He was the manager for Team Canada. They are now executive vice presidents, and Don Callis also commentates for TNA, Impact Wrestling, as well. Along with that, he also commentates for New Japan Pro Wrestling and was the force behind getting Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega at Wrestle Kingdom this past year. So, Impact Wrestling, I've been watching Impact Wrestling. They have now the GWN app where you can watch all the latest episodes of Impact Wrestling, I should say. They also have a lot of their older stuff on there, actually all of their older stuff on there, and a lot of different companies as well, like Smash Wrestling from Toronto and a few different other companies. I've been watching the TNA product, and it's not as bad, or the Impact Wrestling, I gotta get that through my brain, Impact Wrestling. I've been watching the Impact Wrestling product for a few weeks now, and it's actually, the in-ring action is very, very good. The backstage stuff, the segment stuff can be worked on, but, that'll take some time. They'll have to fine craft everything. But on the whole, I've been enjoying Impact Wrestling quite a bit. They had a main event match last week, which was just outstanding. 6-man tag team contest. Sami Callihan and OVE taking on Rich Swann, Pentagon Jr., and Phoenix. And it is one of the most astounding matches I've ever seen. If you haven't seen it and you're a wrestling fan, you should actually watch it. But can Impact Wrestling be competition with the WWE? They've been trying for 16 years now, and it's going to take a little more time. I don't think the move to Canada was a good decision, because Canada's not the hotbed of wrestling that it used to be. Like in the 80s, you had Stampede Wrestling out of Calgary until Vince McMahon bought them up. But can it be done with Impact? It might. They could do it. They're not an indie promotion, so to speak, unlike something like Ring of Honor, which we'll talk about here in a second. But they're not that big. Not yet, anyway. I think with having the Global Wrestling Network app, I think that's steering them in the right direction. It's going to take a little more. But I think with a little fine-tuning, now that you have Don Callis and Scott D'Amore in control, I think with a little fine-tuning, they could eventually be some sort of competition. Not total competition like WCW was. That could take a little longer. But I think they could do it. Impact Wrestling has the most likely chance out of any company to actually be competition and maybe push the WWE to build new stars and not ram stars down our throats like a Bobby Lashley, like a Roman Reigns, like a Brock Lesnar. They could develop new stars. And to think about it this way, look at all the stars who were in TNA who are now making it big in the WWE. AJ Styles is a former TNA X Division champion, former tag team champion, former NWA champion, former TNA champion. He's now the two-time WWE champion. Bobby Roode, he's held the NWA Tag Team Championships. He's held the TNA Tag Team Championships. He's a former TNA World Champion. He's now on the Raw roster. Eric Young, former Tag Team Champion, former TNA Champion. He just debuted on the SmackDown roster with Sanity. So you have a lot. Samoa Joe, I totally expect him to get a WWE Championship shot against AJ Styles at SummerSlam. That has to happen. Please let that happen. He's a former TNA champion, and he's making it big on WWE, just kicking ass and taking names, and I love it. So I wouldn't be too surprised if we see some more former TNA guys show up on WWE, like maybe James Storm. So I really think Impact Wrestling has the best shot to be competition to the WWE. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some fine-tuning. They need to readjust everything. The in-ring product is as good as it's going to get. Like, there have been some really great matches from what I've been watching the past few weeks. I did see something last week that made me kind of cringe involving Madison Rayne and someone else, Su Yung, I think it is, who's the current Knockouts champion. That made me cringe a little bit, but I think with some fine-tuning, that could get better. So I think Impact Wrestling has the best chance, but still, it's far off. Now, I know what you're saying to yourself. What about a company like Ring of Honor? Well, let's talk about Ring of Honor then. Ring of Honor Wrestling also started in 2002, and it was billed as an indie fan's dream federation. They procured all the biggest names of the independent scene and brought them into one place so they could showcase their skills under what is called the Code of Honor, where you really didn't see a lot of disqualifications or countouts or all that much, and even if there was a countout, they have like a 20 count instead of the standard 10 count. And they brought all the biggest names. You had Low-Key, AJ Styles, Austin Aries. Even to this very day, you have some of the best independent talent, including Cody Rhodes. You have The Kingdom, Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, Silas Young, some excellent talent working in this company. But seeing how it is technically an indie federation that has a TV deal and is being shown on the Fight TV app, I don't know if it could be considered competition with the WWE. Like, sure, they have a world championship, they have a TV deal through Sinclair Broadcasting, but that's syndicated. That's not something like TNA or Impact Wrestling, which is on the Pop Network and Fight Network and in Canada. So, they are put on various stations and not just one cable network. So I don't think, like, the Ring of Honor product is really good. You have some excellent in-ring action. Last episode I watched had a great match featuring Cody Rhodes. Just a great overall show. The former Bubba Ray Dudley, now Bully Ray in Ring of Honor, had just a fun match with this skinny little dude called Cheeseburger, and you saw Colt Cabana, another great independent talent who didn't get a fair shake at all in the WWE, come down and try to help him out against Bully Ray. But I thought Bully Ray was retired, but either way. So would Ring of Honor be considered competition with the WWE? I don't think so. It's going to take a lot more for them to be competition, to be on the level of something like Impact Wrestling. They need to lock down their stars in guaranteed contracts so they don't wrestle anywhere else. Because with Ring of Honor, they take independent bookings elsewhere. Like Cody Rhodes has been working for New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's a former Defiant Wrestling Internet champion. He's been working everywhere. He came to Saskatoon just 2 months ago, working for High Impact Wrestling Wildside. So he's making his bones everywhere. And you have also other great talent like the Young Bucks and Bullet Club, who WWE want them in the fold, but they're making a killing in the independent scene with their bookings and with their merchandise as well. Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega are the first 4 non-WWE superstars to have vinyl pop figures. Like when you see like legends like Ted DiBiase, the Ultimate Warrior, Iron Sheik, Hulk Hogan, current stars like Bayley, Asuka, Sasha Banks, who else? Shinsuke Nakamura. They all have pop figures, but they're all WWE. You don't see any Impact Wrestling stars getting pop figures. But here's the Bullet Club, the 4 key members of Bullet Club, they all have pop figures out. So you know they're doing something right, and they're not going to want to go to WWE just yet. Kenny Omega has said, yeah, eventually I want to go to WWE, but for now, I'm killing it on the independent circuit, working for New Japan, taking dates for Ring of Honor. Kenny Omega's the current IWGP Heavyweight Champion. So we're going to talk about IWGP in a little bit in their Western expansion. So can Ring of Honor be competition with the WWE? I don't think so. It's going to take a lot for them to get up to even Impact Wrestling's level. The in-ring competition is solid, but they should really lock down their stars, get a cable network deal to air their show. Then maybe they can start making strides to be competition for the WWE. Now, I was talking a little bit about New Japan Pro Wrestling and their Western expansion, so let's get more into that. Of all the companies that I'm talking about today, New Japan Pro Wrestling has been around the longest. They were founded in 1972 by legendary Japanese wrestler Antonio Inoki. And they have just started within the last 2 years making a Western expansion into the United States. They introduced the United States Championship, their first new championship in a few years since they debuted the Intercontinental Championship in 2012, and have had quite a few events already within the United States with their G1 specials. They're best known in Japan, where originally you could only get New Japan Wrestling if you were a tape trader, which you saw a lot of back in the 80s and 90s. They would trade tapes from all the other promotions around the world. That wasn't just the WWF. So New Japan Pro Wrestling has really been making strides to be a force within the wrestling business. Their current champions list is mainly all Westerners, like with a few exceptions. Kenny Omega is the current New Japan Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Champion. The Young Bucks are the current New Japan Heavyweight Tag Team Champions. Chris Jericho is the current New Japan Pro Wrestling Intercontinental Champion. So right there you have 4 big names and 2 Canadians as champions in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So they're taking this Western expansion seriously. They've set up a dojo in Los Angeles for talent. So I think that within 2-3 years, New Japan Pro Wrestling is going to overshadow Impact, and they could be legitimate competition for the WWE. Now, you can still say, they do a majority of their shows in Japan, and that's true. They do. A lot of their shows will be in Japan, with the states getting a few shows here and there. But if they continue this trend, I think New Japan could definitely give WWE a run for its money and make them make new stars so they can have another almost Monday Night War type thing. If New Japan can get an American TV deal, it all hinges on something like that. If New Japan can get that, then they're off to the races, and I think they're going to be competition with the WWE, in 2, 3, 4 years. If that doesn't happen, then will they still be competition with the WWE? I don't think so, because you need that TV deal to get the wrestlers out there. You don't need to get them over because, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, they're already over as Rover, as Conrad Black would say. Or Conrad Thompson. Conrad Thompson. 3 great podcasts. If you're not listening to them, 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff, What Happened When with Tony Schiavone, and Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard. Of the three, I like 83 Weeks more because I'm a huge Eric Bischoff fan. I love the comedy in 83 Weeks, but I just seem like, as much as I like Something to Wrestle, I find myself yelling at Bruce Pritchard a lot. But you should really be listening to those, speaking of Conrad Thompson. So would New Japan Pro Wrestling be competition for the WWE if they got that American TV deal? Absolutely. They would have high ratings because they would bring such incredible action every week to their show. The Japanese strong style is so captivating to watch. Just okay, well, it wasn't Japanese, but the match between Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega from Wrestle Kingdom, one of the greatest matches I've ever seen. I've yet to see this final 2 out of 3 falls match between Kenny Omega and former New Japan Pro Wrestling heavyweight champion. I forget his name now, but he's a huge name in Japan. He's part of the Chaos stable. Okada. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his first name, but you have other great talent like Tetsuya Naito. You have Minoru Suzuki, who's just a friggin' sadist in the ring. I saw him in a match with Asuka, female WWE star Asuka. He was beating the crap out of her, and that was uncomfortable to watch, honestly. But they have such great names, and their style the Japanese strong styles could lend so well to American TV that, if given the chance, New Japan Pro Wrestling could be the alternative that wrestling fans are looking for something against the showbiz carnival circus style of the WWE. So we'll have to see what happens with the next few years. If they get a television deal, then I only see big things from there going up for New Japan Pro Wrestling. And finally, let's talk about the company that I like that is probably the least likely to be competition, that being Lucha Underground. The reason I think Lucha Underground would not be competition with the WWE is for its scripted nature. Now, I know what you're thinking. Scripted. Oh, all wrestling's scripted. Well, yeah, this one's more of a drama series than it is, or a supernatural drama series, I should say, than a wrestling show. It just incorporates the wrestling aspect into it, getting a lot of great wrestlers. Like, you have likes of Brian Cage, you have Pentagon Dark, who's also Pentagon Jr. in Impact Wrestling. Phoenix, you have the recently signed Jake Strong, I think it is. He used to wrestle as Jack Swagger in WWE. Even in previous seasons, you had Rey Mysterio, you had Alberto Del Rio wrestling under Alberto El Patron. You have Ivelisse, who was, I think he was part of Tough Enough, WWE Tough Enough. Katarina, who, again, part of WWE Tough Enough. So they have the legitimate wrestling background, but they mask it with this drama series, supernatural drama series. So it works rather well. I love the in-ring action of it. It's just fantastic. But then you have that other side to it where it's the scripted drama series, which is another reason, because it is a season. Like every season, this is the 4th season, then it takes some time off, then comes back for another season, which I think is the main reason for me why Lucha Underground will never be competition for the WWE. Unlike anything else we've talked about, like Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Lucha Underground will only be a drama series, and that's it. It's an offshoot of AAA Wrestling in Mexico, but I don't see any Mexican promotion, maybe with the exception of CMLL, maybe. But it, I could be wrong, but with Lucha Underground, it's a great show, don't get me wrong. It's a fantastic show, but it will never be on the level of something like an Impact or Ring of Honor, and it will definitely never compete with the WWE. As far as in-ring action goes, oh god, hands down, some of the best action that I have seen, which gives even something like NXT a run for its money. But for legitimate competition, I don't see it. It won't happen unless they can pull away from that drama aspect and focus more on the wrestling aspect. But that's just really my opinion. I think, like I said, Lucha Underground is great and I love it, but It will never be competition for the WWE. Well, that about wraps it up for this week's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give this episode a big thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that. What company do you think can compete with the WWE in a WCW type level? Is it Ring of Honor? Is it Impact Wrestling? Is it New Japan Pro Wrestling? Maybe it's even Lucha Underground. Or maybe another up-and-coming company like Progress or ICW or whichever. Let me know in the comments section down below. I'd really appreciate that. Don't forget to share this video anywhere you can on Facebook, Twitter, whatever your social media outlet of choice is. Over my shoulder right here, you're going to see a link to last week's episode where we're talking about my 5 favorite all-time Disney movies, excluding anything from Pixar. I always got to reiterate that. In the description down below, you're going to see a link to my Redbubble store where you can get all your Irish Bandit merchandise. I just added a few new pieces of merch into the store. You can pick up t-shirts, tank tops, ladies' racer bags. You can pick up phone wallets now. You can pick up iPad cases. You can pick up cases for iPhone or Samsung. You can pick up stickers. You can pick up coffee mugs, travel mugs, whatever your heart desires. It is all there in the Irish Bandit shop. I do get a bit of the profits, but all the money that will be raised will go into making this a bigger and better channel. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. I upload regularly. And if you're already subscribed, don't forget to tap that bell and you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video or whenever I go live, like next week's episode of Irish Bandit Revolution. It is the live state of the channel address. I'm going to be telling you everything that's been going on with the channel, the growth we've been seeing, the growth we've been having. It is all good news all around, and I cannot wait to share it with you next week for the live state of the channel address. I almost forgot what I was saying there. I don't know why. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great week, and I will talk to you again next week for that live episode. I'm the Bandit, and I'm out of here. Take care, brother.